AITA for kicking my ex out after she crashed my proposal in a wedding dress. My name is Jonah. I'm 27, and up until a few months ago, my biggest problem was figuring out how to hide an engagement ring in a one-bedroom apartment with a girlfriend who reorganizes the pantry for fun. I work as an assistant project manager for a commercial flooring company in Pittsburgh, which means half my day is emails and spreadsheets, and the other half is explaining to contractors why next Tuesday is not a real delivery plan. I live with my girlfriend, Marissa, in a third-floor walk-up where the radiator sounds like a popcorn machine. The stairs are narrow enough to make every grocery trip feel personal, and our downstairs neighbor bangs on the ceiling if I drop a spoon after 9 p.m. Marissa and I had been together a little over 2 years, and I was planning to propose during a small weekend dinner with our families. I had the ring hidden inside a box of expired tax paperwork because I knew she would never voluntarily touch anything labeled 2021 deductions. Marissa will deep clean a fridge at midnight, alphabetize canned soup, and reorganize our tiny pantry so the pasta makes emotional sense, but she would rather walk barefoot across Legos than open an old tax folder. That was one of the things I loved about her. She was practical in every area of life except paperwork, and even then, she was honest about it. She was 26, worked as a scheduling coordinator at a physical therapy clinic, and had a talent for making a room feel less tense just by walking in with iced coffee and a sarcastic comment. She wasn't the loudest person anywhere, but she noticed everything. If I came home quiet, she'd give me 10 minutes, put food in front of me, and then say, "You can either tell me what happened or keep chewing like a haunted goat." Before Marissa, I dated Natalie. Natalie and I were together in our early 20s, and it ended badly, not in a dramatic movie way, but in the exhausting way where every conversation turned into a performance review. Natalie wasn't evil. She was smart, intense, ambitious, and competitive about things that didn't need a winner. With her, I always felt like I was auditioning for a role I never actually got. If I planned a date, it was almost right. If I got a promotion, I should have negotiated better. If I was tired, she was more tired. Marissa was different. She didn't make me feel chosen because I performed well. She made me feel chosen because I was there. We had a normal life together, which I mean as the highest compliment. We argued over whose turn it was to take laundry down to the coin machines in the basement. We ate breakfast for dinner when both of us were too tired to act like adults. We had a running debate over whether the chipped mug with the faded penguin on it was still safe to use. She said yes because it had history. I said no because it had cracks. Her family was more complicated. Marissa's mom had passed away when Marissa was in college, and her grandmother died 2 years later. Since then, Marissa's dad, Victor, had become the kind of quiet man who preferred peace even when peace came with a cost. He loved Marissa. I never doubted that. But he treated conflict like a pot boiling over. Instead of turning off the burner, he'd just lower the heat and hope nobody noticed the mess. Then there was Aunt Denise. Denise was Victor's older sister, 53, and she had built an entire identity around being the responsible one. She ran a small accounting office outside the city, wore cardigans that looked soft enough to forgive her, and had that special family talent of insulting you while handing you a casserole. The first Thanksgiving I spent with Marissa's family, Denise looked at our apartment address on a Christmas card and said, "Third floor? Oh, you two are still in the adventurous stage." She smiled when she said it, so everyone pretended it was nice. Denise had helped manage a lot of paperwork after Marissa's grandmother died. There was a trust, some estate documents, and a lot of language that made my eyes cross whenever Marissa mentioned it. According to Marissa, it was supposed to involve a portion of money eventually coming to her, but Denise always had a reason it wasn't the right time. "You're still building stability," Denise would say. "You don't want to rush financial decisions," she would add. Victor would clear his throat, look into his coffee, and say, "Your aunt knows that paperwork better than I do." Marissa usually rolled her eyes after those conversations and changed the subject. She hated fighting with family, not because she was weak, but because she had spent too many years being told that asking direct questions made her difficult. When I decided to propose, I knew I didn't want a big public spectacle. Marissa once told me that being proposed to on a giant screen at a sporting event was her personal escape room. So I booked the small private room behind a neighborhood Italian restaurant we liked, the kind of place with red sauce that came in heavy bowls, bread baskets that never stayed full, and framed black and white pictures of Pittsburgh bridges on the walls. I invited both families, told them it was a little dinner to celebrate Marissa's upcoming birthday, and ordered enough food for everyone to pretend they weren't waiting for cake. I also asked Victor if we could grab coffee earlier that week. I was not asking permission. I was trying to be respectful. There's a difference. Victor met me at a coffee shop near his office, wearing a jacket that looked like it had lived in his car for years. He listened while I told him I loved his daughter, wanted to marry her, and hoped he'd be happy for us. He smiled, but there was something tired behind it. Marissa makes her own choices, he said. Always has. I know. And you're a good man, Jonah. I believe that. That should have made me feel calm. Instead, the way he stirred his coffee for a full 10 seconds after saying it stuck with me. Is there something else? I asked. He looked up quickly. No, nothing like that. Just family stuff. You know how it is. I did not, in fact, know how it was. But I nodded because people usually say that when they don't want you to ask again. By Friday night, everything was ready. The restaurant confirmed the reservation. My sister was picking up the cake. Marissa's family group chat had become a nightmare of older relatives using too many emojis. Aunt Carla wrote, "Can't wait to celebrate our girl. Party popper, party popper, party popper." Denise replied, "Looking forward to a lovely, sensible evening." Okay. I stared at the word sensible longer than necessary. At home, Marissa was sitting cross-legged on the couch in sweatpants, eating cereal from a mug because all the bowls were in the dishwasher. The radiator clanked beside the window. A basket of laundry sat by the door, ignored by both of us. "You're being weird," she said without looking up from her phone. "I'm always weird." "No, you're being neat weird. Like you alphabetized your anxiety." I almost laughed too hard and gave the whole thing away. "I just want tomorrow to go smoothly," I said. "It's dinner with my relatives. Smooth is not on the menu." At 10:38 p.m., while Marissa was brushing her teeth and I was pretending to look at vendor emails, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "You need to know who you're marrying before you embarrass yourself tomorrow." I stared at it until the screen dimmed. Then another text came in. "Private room. Bellini's. 6:30, 12 guests. Ring in a square box." My mouth went dry. The ring was not in its original velvet box. It was in a small, square travel case I had bought because the original box looked too bulky to hide in my jacket. Only 2 people knew that. Me and Tasha, my coworker, because I had shown her the ring during lunch like an idiot who needed reassurance from someone who would tell me if I was about to buy something ugly. Marissa came out of the bathroom with her toothbrush still in her mouth. "Who's texting you this late?" I locked the screen too fast. Her eyebrows lifted. "Work," I said. It was not my finest moment. Marissa stared at me for 1 second longer than normal, then went back into the bathroom. I sat on the couch with my heart beating too hard, feeling like the apartment had gotten smaller. Another message appeared. "It's Natalie. Don't ignore this." I didn't answer. I told myself it was classic ex drama, a last-minute attempt to get in my head. Natalie knew enough people who knew people. Maybe someone had mentioned the dinner. Maybe she guessed the ring. Maybe the universe was just being annoying. Then she sent a photo. It was a screenshot of the restaurant reservation confirmation. My name, the date, the private room, the guest count. Below it, she wrote, "I'm not trying to get you back. I'm trying to stop you from being used." I slept maybe 2 hours that night. Marissa curled against me like usual, one hand tucked under her cheek, breathing softly while the radiator clicked and hissed. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wanting to wake her up and tell her everything, but not knowing what everything was yet. By morning, I had convinced myself there was one responsible thing to do: find out how Natalie got the information before I brought it to Marissa. That sounded mature at 7 a.m. By 9 a.m., after 3 cups of coffee and a mild stress headache, it sounded less mature and more like the beginning of a bad decision. Natalie texted again while I was at the laundromat in the basement, watching our sheets tumble behind scratched glass. "Grocery store parking lot on Butler. 11:30, 10 minutes. Then do whatever you want." I typed, "How do you know about the ring?" She replied, "Come alone." I almost didn't go. I put the wet sheets in the dryer, fed quarters into the machine, and stood there listening to it clunk around while I tried to think like a reasonable adult. If Natalie was lying, I needed proof. If someone close to us was feeding her details, I needed to know. And if there was even a tiny chance Marissa was being set up, too, ignoring it would not protect her. So I went. The grocery store parking lot was half full and ugly under bad fluorescent lights, even though it was late morning. Pittsburgh in November has a way of making every sky look like damp cardboard. Natalie was parked near the cart return in a silver sedan I didn't recognize. When I walked up, she rolled down the window and said, "Get in." No. She blinked. "Jonah, I'm not getting in your car like this is a spy movie. Say what you need to say." She looked different than I remembered, but not in a dramatic way. Her hair was shorter, her makeup lighter. She looked tired. Not broken, not wild, just tired and determined. She got out and shut the door. The inside of her car smelled like vanilla air freshener. In the back seat, hanging from the hook above the door, was a white garment bag. I pointed at it. "Why do you have a dress in your car?" Natalie's jaw tightened. "Because someone told me I was supposed to be the one wearing it." I stared at her. "What does that even mean?" "It means I know you don't want to hear from me. I wouldn't want to hear from me either. But you need to know why tomorrow matters to her. If this is about us, we don't have an us anymore." "That's what I thought too," she said. "Then someone sent me documents with your name practically stapled to a deadline." She opened her phone and turned it toward me. The screenshots looked real enough to make my stomach drop. There were cropped pieces of what looked like legal paperwork, references to Marissa's grandmother's trust, and a message from an anonymous email account claiming Marissa would receive a large distribution if she married before turning 27. Natalie swiped to another screenshot. "Marissa picked Jonah because he's safe enough to marry. He won't ask questions if she frames it as family pressure." I felt heat climb up my neck. "That doesn't sound like her," I said. "You think I wanted it to?" Natalie snapped, then caught herself. "Look, I know what you think of me. Fine. But I didn't make these." "Who sent them?" "I don't know." "You don't know? Or you won't say?" "I don't know. It was an anonymous email. They knew things." "What things?" "The restaurant. The timing. That you talked to her dad. That she's been waiting on trust money. That Denise controls parts of the paperwork." At Denise's name, something in me shifted. Natalie kept going. "They said Marissa had a deadline. That she had to look settled. That you were the easiest way to do it." I let out a hard breath. If someone really wanted me protected, they wouldn't hide behind a burner email. "They said you'd never listen otherwise." "And you believed them?" Her eyes flashed. "I believed enough to check." "With a white dress in your back seat?" Color rose in her face. "They told me you had planned to propose years ago. To me. Before Marissa. They said she took the spot, and I guess I was angry enough to be stupid." For a second, neither of us said anything. A woman pushed a cart past us slowly, pretending not to listen. I looked at Natalie's phone again. The screenshots were convincing in the way bad information can be convincing when it uses enough real details. But every document was cropped. Every claim came without context. Every message was designed to make me feel foolish. That bothered me. "Forward me the emails," I said. Natalie pulled the phone back. "No." "Then we're done." "Jonah, I'm trying to help you." "No. You're trying to control what I know while accusing Marissa of doing the same thing. Forward the emails, or stop texting me." Her face tightened like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. I left the parking lot with my hands cold and my head loud. At work that afternoon, I was useless. I opened the same installation schedule 5 times and understood none of it. Tasha noticed because Tasha noticed everything and tolerated almost nothing. Tasha was 28, sharp, blunt, and allergic to nonsense. She had been my friend since I started at the flooring company, mostly because she was the first person there to tell me, "You look like a man who says yes to things he should put in writing." She found me in the break room staring into a coffee I had not drunk. "You look like your soul is buffering," she said. I told her the whole thing. She listened without interrupting, except once to say, "The white dress is a lot," and once to ask, "Did you eat today?" When I finished, she leaned back against the counter and crossed her arms. "Congratulations," she said. "You are not in a romance movie. You are in a records problem. That is somehow not comforting. It should be. Records problems can be solved. Feelings problems just make people buy throw pillows. What do? You stop spiraling and save evidence. Screenshots, dates, email headers, original messages. No dramatic confrontation until you know what you're holding. I haven't told Marissa yet." Tasha's face changed. "Jonah, I know. No, I need you to hear me. Quiet is not the same thing as careful. I was trying not to dump something on her without proof. Fine. Get proof fast. Then tell her before someone else does. That was Tasha's version of gentle. I texted Natalie from my desk. Forward the emails. All of them. Not screenshots. She didn't answer for 40 minutes. Then a message came through. Fine. But don't twist this around on me. A forwarded email hit my inbox 1 minute later. I opened it expecting another cropped screenshot. Instead, Natalie had forwarded one message carelessly, with some of the original header information still attached. I was not an IT expert, but I spent enough of my day dealing with vendor email chains to know when something had been passed through a masking service and when little details were left behind. There was a recovery phone number fragment attached to the sender account. Last 4 digits, 1186. I stared at it. Denise's accounting office number ended in 1186. That could have been a coincidence. Pittsburgh is not a village, but families can make it feel like one. I scrolled further, forcing myself not to jump. At the bottom of one attached image was a faint footer from a scanned document. Printed at DK Accounting Services. Denise's business was Denise K. Accounting Services. My hands went cold. I sent everything to my personal email, saved copies to a folder, and asked Natalie to forward the rest. She sent 3 more emails, all from the same anonymous account. Some had screenshots. Some had half sentences framed as quotes. One referenced Marissa's unstable living situation in our apartment. That phrase stuck in my head because nobody who had seen Marissa label our spice jars with a tiny label maker would call her unstable unless it helped them. I needed someone who knew Denise's office. That was Avery. Avery was Marissa's younger cousin, 25, and worked part-time at Denise's office while taking classes at night. She was the kind of person who laughed too quickly when nervous and always seemed to be carrying 3 tote bags. I didn't know her well, but I knew she liked Marissa and looked scared whenever Denise said her name in that polished, disappointed tone. I texted Avery and asked if she could meet for coffee. I kept it vague, but said it was about Denise's office and the trust paperwork. She replied almost immediately. Is Marissa okay? That told me enough to keep going. We met outside a coffee shop in Lawrenceville because Avery said she didn't want to sit inside where someone might see her. It was cold enough that both of us held our paper cups mostly for warmth. Cars hissed by on wet pavement. Avery wore a puffy jacket and kept looking over my shoulder. Please don't make me the reason my whole family blows up, she said before I even asked a question. I'm trying to stop someone else from doing that. She looked miserable. What do you know? I showed her the email footer and the phone number fragment. Not everything. Just enough. Avery closed her eyes. Oh no. So it's Denise. I didn't send anything. I didn't say you did. I saw emails, she whispered. Not all of them. Just enough. Denise leaves tabs open sometimes, and she had me skin old estate documents last week. She said it was for cleanup. What emails? Avery swallowed. She was messaging someone about creating doubt before Saturday. Hearing the phrase out loud made the whole thing feel less like paranoia and more like a room locking behind me. Why? I asked. Because of the trust attorney. What about the trust attorney? Avery looked down at her coffee lid. He's been asking for missing records. Denise keeps saying she'll send them after the holidays, after tax season, after whatever excuse works. But if Marissa gets engaged, especially if Victor starts paying attention, people will ask why things are still unresolved. I tried to keep my voice even. Natalie said Marissa gets money if she marries before she turns 27. Avery's eyes widened. No, that's not it. What is it? The trust doesn't require marriage. It's about showing stable, independent living and financial responsibility. Marissa was supposed to receive her portion once that was documented. Denise has been arguing she isn't settled enough. I actually laughed once, but there was no humor in it. Marissa pays bills 2 days early because she likes watching the confirmation numbers appear. I know, Avery said. That's why this is awful. Does Denise benefit from delaying it? Avery hesitated. Avery. She controls some of the administrative accounts until distribution. I don't know all the details. I just know she likes being the person everyone has to go through. That sounded exactly like Denise. Not cartoon villain stuff. Nothing dramatic enough for sirens. Just control, paperwork, delay, and polite concern sharpened into a weapon. Avery unzipped one of her tote bags and pulled out a folder. I printed a few things. I know I shouldn't have, but I got scared. Inside were copies of emails, scan logs, and document notes. One email from Denise's office account included the line, "If Marissa gets engaged this weekend, the attorney will start asking questions again. Better to create doubt before Saturday than clean up a mess afterward." I read that sentence twice. Avery watched my face. "What are you going to do? Tell Marissa? Is she going to hate me?" "No," I said. "But she might be done protecting everybody's feelings." Avery gave a small, shaky laugh. "That would be new." When I got home, Marissa was in the kitchen making grilled cheese and tomato soup, because that was our emergency dinner when the world felt rude. The apartment smelled like butter and pepper. The ring was still hidden in the tax box on the closet shelf. The whole place looked painfully normal. She turned when I came in. "You're late." "I know. You also said work texted you last night." I put my keys in the bowl by the door and didn't move from there. "It wasn't work." Her face went still. I told her everything. Natalie's texts, the parking lot, the dress, the emails, the metadata, Avery, Denise, the trust. I did not soften the part where I had met Natalie without telling her first. When I finished, the soup had gone quiet on the stove. Marissa leaned against the counter with her arms folded. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. That almost made it worse. "I'm hurt that you went," she said. "I know. I'm not going to pretend I'm not." "You shouldn't." She looked at the floor for a long moment. "But I'm also looking at this and realizing somebody designed it to make you do exactly that. I should have told you sooner." "Yes." I was scared. "Of what?" I answered honestly. "That if I brought it to you and any part of it was true, everything would break." Her expression softened, but only a little. "Jonah, if something is true, hiding from it doesn't keep it from breaking. It just means I'm standing there without a helmet." That was fair. I handed her the folder Avery had given me. She read in silence. With every page, something changed in her face. Hurt became recognition. Recognition became anger. Not loud anger. The kind that makes a person very still. When she reached Denise's line about creating doubt, she said, "Of course." "You knew?" "I knew," she meddled. "I didn't know she was sending bait to your ex." "I'm so sorry." Marissa shook her head. "Don't apologize for her. I'm tired of people apologizing around Denise like she's weather." She closed the folder and looked at me. "Do you want to cancel tomorrow?" I asked. "No." I blinked. No. I don't want her to think she can blow up my life and still get dessert." Despite everything, I almost smiled. Marissa turned off the stove, stirred the soup once, and said, "But we're not walking into that room blind." We spent the next 2 hours at our tiny kitchen table, soup cooling beside us, planning the least romantic pre-proposal strategy anyone has ever planned. Marissa texted Avery, who admitted she had more copies and agreed to bring them. I texted Natalie, "If you actually wanted the truth out, bring the emails tomorrow. Not screenshots. You wanted me to know the truth. Now you can stand in the same room with it." Natalie replied 20 minutes later, "I'm not coming to your engagement dinner." I wrote back, "Then Denise gets to say you made it up." That did it. "Fine," she replied, "but I'm not wearing the dress." "Please don't," I typed. Marissa saw it and snorted so hard she had to put her spoon down. That laugh was the first moment all day when I felt like maybe we were still us. The next evening, the private room at Bellini's looked exactly like I had hoped and nothing like I felt. There were white tablecloths, bread baskets, a Costco-style floral centerpiece my sister had improved with ribbon, and too many chairs squeezed around 2 long tables. The walls had framed photos of old Pittsburgh streetcars. A server filled water glasses while relatives made the kind of small talk people make when they are waiting for something they don't know they are waiting for. My parents arrived first and hugged Marissa like she was already family. My mom kept touching my shoulder because she could sense I was tense, but probably assumed proposal nerves. Marissa's father came in next, quiet as usual, wearing a tie that looked slightly crooked. He kissed Marissa's cheek and told her she looked nice. Denise arrived 10 minutes late, smiling like she owned the room. "Oh, look at this," she said, taking in the flowers and the table. "So sweet. A little fast, maybe, but sweet." Marissa's hand found mine under the table and squeezed once. Denise hugged her like she was checking for wires. "Big weekend," Denise said softly. Marissa smiled. "Bigger than you know." Denise's eyes flicked to me for half a second. Dinner started with the normal sounds of family gatherings. Forks against plates, people asking for butter, Someone laughing too loudly at a joke that wasn't funny. Denise performed concern in small, careful doses. Jonah, your apartment building is still treating you well? As well as a third-floor walk-up can. Well, young couples can make anything charming for a while. My dad, who had no idea what was happening but disliked condescension on instinct, said, their place is great. Strong stares. Builds character. Marissa coughed into her napkin to hide a laugh. Denise turned to Victor. Did you ever speak to Marissa about pacing herself? Big decisions deserve guidance. Marissa set down her fork. Guidance is advice. What you do tends to come with attachments. The table quieted just slightly. Victor looked between them. Let's keep things pleasant. I watched Marissa's face, and for the first time, I saw how tired she was of that sentence. After the main course, my sister gave me the tiniest nod from the end of the table. The cake was ready. The server had cleared enough plates. This was the moment I was supposed to stand, say the words I had rehearsed in the shower for 2 weeks, and ask Marissa to marry me. I stood. The room went soft with expectation. My mom's eyes filled immediately because she is the kind of person who cries at commercials with dogs. Denise leaned back, smiling. Victor looked at his hands. I reached into my jacket pocket, where the ring case sat heavy and real. I wanted tonight to be simple, I said. Just dinner, family, bread I've eaten too much of, and one question for Marissa. A few people laughed. Marissa looked up at me, calm but alert. But before I asked the question I came here to ask, I continued. There's something else that needs to be answered. Denise's smile didn't move, but her eyes sharpened. The door opened behind me. Natalie walked in wearing dark pants, a gray coat, and the expression of someone who wanted to be anywhere else. She did not have the dress. She carried a folder. Every head turned. Denise's face lost color so quickly that if I had still doubted anything, that would have finished it. What is this? Denise said. Natalie stopped near the end of the table. I'm not here for Jonah. I'm here because someone used me. Denise laughed once, thin and bright. Oh, please. This is exactly what bitter women do when they can't move on. The room went silent in a different way. Natalie's face flushed, but she opened the folder. That's what you were counting on people thinking. Denise stood halfway. This is inappropriate. Victor, say something. Victor looked frozen. Marissa slowly stood up, too. No. Let her speak. Denise turned to her. Marissa, sweetheart, this is embarrassing. Then stop talking over the evidence. That landed. Natalie placed printed emails on the table. I got these from an anonymous account. They said Marissa was using Jonah to unlock trust money. They sent cropped documents, private details about this dinner, and lies about Jonah's past with me. My mother looked at me, alarmed. My father's jaw tightened. Across the table, Avery sat rigid with both hands around her water glass. Denise shook her head. And we're supposed to believe you? After you show up at another woman's engagement dinner? Natalie swallowed. No. You're supposed to believe the email trail. Avery stood so quickly her chair scraped the floor. Denise snapped, Avery. Avery flinched, but she stayed standing. That footer is from your printer, Denise. Avery said, her voice shaking. I watched you print it. I scanned some of the same documents last week. You told me it was cleanup. Denise stared at her. Sit down. No. The word was small, but it moved through the room like a door opening. Avery pulled papers from her tote bag. You also left these in the office queue. Messages about creating doubt before Saturday. Messages about the attorney asking questions. Victor's head lifted. What attorney? Marissa asked him, not Denise. Victor looked suddenly older. The trust attorney has been requesting missing records for months. Marissa's voice stayed calm. And you didn't tell me? I thought Denise was handling it. You always think Denise is handling it. He looked down. I know. Denise pressed a hand to her chest. I handled everything because no one else would. That is not a crime. No one said crime. I said. Interesting place to go first. Her eyes cut to me. You should be careful, Jonah. You're stepping into family matters you don't understand. Marissa moved around the table until she stood between Denise and me. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Then explain it, she said. Explain why Natalie was told I needed to marry before I turned 27. Denise's mouth tightened. I have no idea what that woman was told. Explain why the documents were cropped. I didn't crop anything. Explain why you told the attorney I was financially unstable. Denise's face shifted. Just a little. Enough. Marissa took one step closer. You didn't protect me. You managed me like an account you didn't want to close. Denise's polite mask flickered. You have always been dramatic. No, Marissa said. I've been convenient. There's a difference. Victor stood then. Slowly, like it cost him something. I should have asked more questions, he said. His voice was low, but everyone heard it. That's on me. Denise turned on him. After everything I did for this family? You should have sent the records, Victor said. That was when Denise finally lost the careful tone she had carried like armor. You have no idea what I protected this family from, she said. Marissa was going to hand everything to some apartment boyfriend like he earned it. Nobody moved. The server appeared in the doorway with a coffee pot, saw the room, and quietly backed away. Marissa's face went pale, but her voice stayed steady. There it is. Denise looked around, as if waiting for someone to rescue her from her own words. I meant. No, Marissa said. You meant it. You think my life is only stable if you approve it. You think my money is only safe if you can reach it. You think love is a liability because you can't manage it. Denise grabbed her purse. I will not be humiliated by children. You did that yourself, Avery said, barely above a whisper. Denise looked at her like she had been slapped with a receipt. Then she left, pushing past the server in the hallway without apologizing. For a few seconds, the only sound was the low music from the restaurant speakers and someone's fork sliding off a plate. I looked at Marissa. This was not how I had pictured this moment. There was no smooth speech now, no perfect setup, no clean emotional lighting. There were folders on the table, relatives staring at each other, breadcrumbs everywhere, and my future wife standing in the wreckage of a family pattern that had finally been named out loud. I took the ring case from my pocket. Marissa saw it and covered her mouth. I stepped closer. I didn't bring you here to win an argument, I said. My voice wasn't as steady as I wanted, but it was mine. I brought you here because I want my life with you. Not because it's simple. Not because everyone understands it. Not because anyone in this room gets a vote. I love how you make our tiny apartment feel like a home. I love that you label cumin but lose your keys twice a week. I love that when things get ugly, you don't become ugly with them. Her eyes filled. I got down on one knee. I don't need every person here to bless our future. I just need to ask the person who has made me want one. Marissa, will you marry me? For one terrible second, she just stared at me. Then she laughed and cried at the same time. Yes, she said. Yes. And I swear, if anyone mentions trust paperwork before cake, I'm leaving. The room broke, but in a good way. My mom sobbed. My dad clapped too loudly. My sister shouted, finally, which was rude but accurate. Victor wiped his eyes and looked like a man who had just realized silence had been costing him more than conflict. I slid the ring onto Marissa's finger. It fit. Thank God. After everything that had happened, if the ring had gotten stuck at the knuckle, I might have walked into the kitchen and laid down on the tile. Natalie stayed near the door, holding her folder like a shield. After people had hugged Marissa and the cake had been cut, Natalie approached us. I'm sorry, she said. Marissa looked at her carefully. For which part? Natalie accepted that. For believing it because it made me feel better. For showing Jonah those messages without understanding what I was being used for. For coming back into your life like a warning label. I expected Marissa to fire back. Instead, she nodded once. That apology is not perfect, Marissa said. But I believe you mean it. Natalie looked at me. I wanted to believe you were being used because it hurt less than admitting you were happy. There was no clean answer to that, so I didn't pretend to have one. I hope you are too, I said. She gave a small nod and left before dessert was finished. The aftermath was not dramatic in the way people expect. No one was led away in handcuffs. Nobody fainted into the pasta. The punishment was paperwork, which honestly scared Denise more. The next business day, Victor contacted the trust attorney and provided the missing documents he had. He also requested a full review of Denise's handling of the estate paperwork. Denise was removed from managing anything connected to Marissa's distribution. That did not happen with a cinematic slam of a judge's gavel. It happened through emails, certified letters, uncomfortable phone calls, and one very stern attorney who apparently had been waiting months for someone to stop saying, Denise has it covered. Avery quit Denise's office the following week. Marissa helped her update her resume, and one of Marissa's clinic patients knew a local tax preparer who needed seasonal help. Avery cried in our kitchen when she got the job, then apologized for crying, then cried harder when Marissa hugged her. Victor came over one Sunday with grocery store flowers and an apology that took him almost 15 minutes to get through because he kept stopping to clear his throat. Marissa did not let him off easily, but she let him in. Those are different things. Thanksgiving was awkward. Denise did not come, but somehow her absence took up a whole chair. Aunt Carla tried to compensate by talking too much about sweet potatoes. My dad asked Victor about the Steelers with the intensity of a man building a bridge out of small talk. Marissa squeezed my knee under the table every time someone almost said trust. Natalie sent one more message a month later. I'm seeing someone about why I keep needing to win things that are already over. I hope you both are okay. I showed Marissa. She read it, handed the phone back, and said, good for her. Also block her now. So I did. Our engagement was not a perfect fairy tale. We spent the next few weeks dealing with legal documents, family fallout, awkward apologies, and the strange exhaustion that comes after telling the truth in a room full of people invested in avoiding it. But something changed between Marissa and me, too. Not in a soft, magical way. In a practical way. I stopped treating silence like strategy. She stopped treating family peace like proof she was being kind. We started putting uncomfortable things on the table earlier, before they grew teeth. A few nights after the dinner, we sat on our living room floor eating leftover engagement cake from plastic takeout containers because neither of us wanted to wash plates. The apartment was warm in patches and freezing near the windows. The radiator clanked like it was trying to communicate with another building. Marissa had one sock on and one sock missing, which was basically her natural state. She held out her hand and looked at the ring. You really hid this in tax paperwork? She asked. For weeks. That is disturbingly effective. You never stood a chance. She leaned against my shoulder. I'm still mad you met Natalie without telling me first. I know. Not forever mad. Good to know. Maybe medium mad. I can work with medium. She smiled, and for the first time in days, it didn't look like it cost her anything. I kissed the top of her head. I was scared if I told you, I'd lose you. She looked up at me. You almost lost me by trying to protect me from information about my own life. That sounds worse when you say it correctly. It usually does. We started laughing then, quietly at first, then too loudly. Right on schedule, the downstairs neighbor banged on the ceiling. Marissa froze, then whispered, Do you think we should invite him to the wedding? I lost it again. Another bang came from below. There we were. No perfect family blessing, no spotless history, no guarantee the next thing would be easy. Just a tiny apartment, leftover cake, a clanking radiator, and Marissa's ring catching the light from the cheap floor lamp beside our couch. For once, I didn't feel like I had survived drama. I felt like I had protected a life I actually wanted. And the person sitting beside me was not a deadline, not a trust condition, not a choice anyone else got to manage. She was Marissa. She was my future. And when the neighbor banged one more time, she laughed into my shoulder like the whole building could complain if it wanted to. But we were staying right where we were. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.